Revealing its clutches. How does the CCP endanger the world? Part 2. Hello everyone, welcome to the China Probe channel. I'm Alin, and it's a pleasure to explore recent China issues with you. Today's topic focuses on the dangers the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, poses to the world. To explain them clearly, this topic has been divided into a 4-part series. This video is part 2, focusing on the Confucius Institutes. With the global surge of interest in learning Chinese in the early 2000s, the CCP found an opportunity to quietly extend its influence worldwide through what many critics have described as a Trojan horse. The Confucius Institutes, educational organizations funded by the CCP, were established around the world to teach Chinese language, culture, and history in primary schools, secondary schools, and universities. According to Wikipedia, as of May 2020, the CCP had established 561 Confucius Institutes, serving universities, and 1,170 Confucius classrooms, serving primary and secondary schools, across 162 countries and regions. However, these Confucius Institutes were far from simple language and cultural centers. Critics argue that they not only undermine core principles of higher education such as institutional autonomy and academic freedom, but serve to advance the political agenda of the CCP. They present students with a filtered version of Chinese history, while avoiding discussion of the CCP's actual historical record and human rights abuses. In some classrooms, quotations from Mao Zedong have been prominently displayed, and communist ideology along with the CCP's distorted party culture has been instilled in students. Beyond this, Confucius Institutes have been accused of distorting historical facts, and even organizing protests against activities that the CCP perceives as threats to its political stability. In recent years, the CCP has claimed to be committed to reviving traditional Chinese culture. In reality, critics argue that it has stripped traditional culture of its spiritual essence. This CCP version of traditional Chinese culture not only misleads the international community and further damages authentic cultural traditions, but also serves as an important tool for external propaganda and ideological influence. Some people may be familiar with the term grand external propaganda. One of the CCP's primary strategies for expanding its influence through information and media. Through this effort, the CCP disseminates communist ideology globally and shapes international perceptions of the CCP, its governing model, and China's human rights situation. Confucius Institutes have often been regarded as a flagship project of this external propaganda campaign. Confucius Institutes have also been linked to allegations involving transnational crime. In 2022, Chinese graduate student Liu Ao, who studied in Laos, stated that many graduates from Confucius Institutes eventually found employment in the so-called Golden Triangle, Special Economic Zone, and involved in telecommunications fraud operations. Commentator Dan Fengchen noted that Confucius occupies a revered position in Chinese history, yet the CCP has repeatedly exploited and dishonored his legacy. CCP not only insults Confucius himself, but also demeans the entire Chinese nation and every Chinese person. He argued that this once again demonstrates a historical conclusion, that the CCP is an enemy of the Chinese nation, and a public enemy of the Chinese people. As a result, many countries have either closed or scrutinized Confucius Institutes. Let us examine several examples. First, South Korea. In 2024, following public opposition, Yongmyong High School in Gongyu, South Chungcheong Province, indefinitely suspended plans to establish a Confucius classroom. In 2025, during a meeting of the National Assembly's Education Committee, several lawmakers questioned the operations of the Confucius Institute at Kangwon National University, and expressed concerns about its activities. Representative Ko Min-young of the Democratic Party stated, "There are approximately 23 to 24 Confucius Institutes operating nationwide. Both the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should re-evaluate the overall policy." Next is Australia. More than a dozen Australian universities once maintained partnerships with Confucius Institutes. In late 2020, the Australian Federal Parliament passed the Foreign Relations Act, granting the federal government authority to veto agreements between foreign governments and state governments, local governments, or universities. This means that Australia's foreign minister has the power to reject any cooperation agreement between universities and Confucius Institutes. As of April 2025, 6 leading universities, including the University of Melbourne, the University of Queensland, and the University of New South Wales, had closed their on-campus Confucius Institutes. Sweden provides another example. As the first European country to establish Confucius Institutes, Sweden closed all 4 of its Confucius Institutes by the end of 2019. France has also taken action. In 2013, Lyon 2 University and Lyon 3 University closed their Confucius Institutes. In 2024, under pressure from opposition parties, the city government of Nice withdrew a proposal to continue funding a local Confucius Institute. Nevertheless, more than a dozen Confucius Institutes reportedly remain in operation across France. In the United Kingdom, the Office for Students, the country's higher education regulator, stated in 2025 that Confucius Institute programs were incompatible with British law and should be terminated. At present, approximately 20 Confucius Institutes continue to operate in the UK, including those affiliated with the University of Manchester, Coventry University, and the University of Liverpool. Finally, there is the United States, often regarded by the CCP as its principal strategic rival. In the fiscal year 2019 National Defense Authorization Act, the U.S. government condemned CCP efforts to influence American public discourse, particularly in the areas of media, cultural institutions, business, academia, and political organizations. The legislation also prohibited the Department of Defense from funding Chinese language programs at U.S. universities that host Confucius Institutes. In 2024, the U.S. House of Representatives passed legislation prohibiting Department of Homeland Security (DHS) funding from being directed to universities that maintain Confucius Institutes, aiming to prevent CCP influence within American higher education. According to data from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, GAO, the number of Confucius Institutes in the U.S. declined from more than 100 to only 5 by October 2023. It is worth noting that although the number of Confucius Institutes has dramatically decreased, another lesser-known channel of influence remains active within Western academia. The Chinese Students and Scholars Associations, CSSA, found on university campuses across the U.S. Critics argue that the CCP can utilize CSSA organizations to exert control over overseas Chinese students, effectively holding them hostage through political pressure and surveillance. Some may wonder whether there is an alternative for foreigners who wish to learn Chinese. The answer may lie in Taiwan. Since 2021, the Taiwan Center for Mandarin Learning has strategically expanded into regions where Confucius Institutes have closed. Overseas Community Affairs Council Minister Xu Chia-ching stated that this platform is free from political influence and United Front activities, and expressed confidence that Taiwan's high-quality education, technological strengths, and democratic system will gradually gain international recognition. It is also worth mentioning that Confucius Institutes have not only maintained ties with the CCP's United Front Work Department, but have also received funding from it and been required to comply with Chinese law. In other words, the so-called Grand External Propaganda campaign serves as one of the CCP's core instruments for conducting United Front operations abroad. The concept of United Front work itself is a central political strategy of the CCP, encompassing media warfare, espionage, economic influence operations, and so on. Regarding the CCP's United Front activities, in 2018 the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, USCC, published a report entitled China's Overseas United Front Work, outlining the structure, methods, and international impact of the CCP's United Front system. In 2024, the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Accountability released a report titled CCP Political Warfare. Federal agencies urgently need a government-wide strategy, warning that the CCP is employing increasingly effective tactics against the U.S., while actively seeking opportunities to weaken and undermine the country. Commentator Hui Huayu argued that the CCP's unrestricted warfare strategy, including United Front work, is directed not only at the U.S. government but at every American citizen. By extension, any society that upholds normal social order and traditional values is viewed as an obstacle to the CCP's objectives. Therefore, understanding the true nature of the CCP, he concluded, is the first step in the free world's self-defense. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Please press like, share, and subscribe. Your support is my greatest motivation. Feel free to leave your comments below. See you next time.